Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, today we are unpacking exactly how to fix those frustrating, drafty, and sticking doors with your own two hands. Look, if you're tired of paying exorbitant call-out fees just to have a guy show up and turn a screwdriver in your hallway, well, you are definitely in the right place. We're going to look at how to cut out expensive contractors entirely and finally master this part of your own home maintenance. So, you really have to ask yourself, is your sticking door costing you a fortune? I mean, think about the literal heating bills escaping right through those cracks. Not to mention the looming dread of repair fees. Are you ready to stop yanking and shoving that front door every single time you come home with an armful of groceries? It is time to keep your hard-earned money exactly where it belongs, right there in your wallet. We are actively choosing to avoid the old way of doing things. You know the drill. Expensive contractor visits, steep professional fees, waiting around your house during those ridiculous 4-hour service windows, and just pure frustration. Instead, we're swapping all of that out for a smooth, 5-minute DIY fix using basic tools that you probably already have sitting in a junk drawer or out in the garage right now. Seriously, you can absolutely handle this job yourself. All right, let's jump right into Section 1, Fixing the Air Gap. Picture this scenario. You've got this giant, drafty gap at the bottom of your door, and replacing the weather stripping just isn't doing the trick. Now, before you grab a chisel and go to town on your door jamb to make it sit flush, listen to this homeowner's reaction when they discovered a completely hidden hardware secret. They actually said, "Fantastic, didn't even know it existed." You probably don't know it exists either. The truth is, most homeowners are completely in the dark about this brilliantly simple little feature. So here's that insider secret: adjustable strike plates. If your door just isn't closing tightly against the weather stripping, take a look at the metal strike plate on the door frame. You know, the part where the latch actually catches. Many modern ones, and honestly even older ones dating back decades, are entirely adjustable. By simply loosening 2 screws on the plate, sliding it just a fraction of an inch closer to the weather seal, and tightening it back up, you can completely close that drafty gap. No cutting, no chiseling wood, and absolutely zero contractors needed. It's really that easy. Moving right along to Section 2, the loose screw solution. To understand some of the slightly bigger mechanical issues, we first have to define our common enemy here, and that is door sag. This happens when relentless gravity, or just years of heavy everyday wear, pulls on the top hinge of your door. Over time, that creates a wildly uneven gap. So if you look at your door, and the gap between the door and the frame is super tight up near the top knob edge, but it's nice and wide down at the bottom, well, that tells you your top hinge is taking all the action, and it's starting to fail. But don't panic. You don't need a massive professional workshop to fight back against door sag. Here is your incredibly simple DIY toolkit: a standard Phillips screwdriver, a crescent wrench, some cheap wood shims, or you could use one of those fancy pump air shims if you have one, a hammer, diagonal cutters or a simple Allen wrench, and toothpicks. Yep, toothpicks. Armed with just these everyday basics from your workbench, you are going to outsmart the expensive repairman. Our first line of defense is absolutely brilliant in its simplicity. We call it the toothpick trick. Often, door sag is quite literally just caused by loose screws in that top hinge. But you know how it goes. When you grab your Phillips screwdriver to tighten them up, the screw just spins and spins because the hole in the wood is completely stripped out. Here is the magic fix. Remove that spinning screw entirely, pack the empty hole tightly with broken toothpicks, and then just drive the screw right back in. The wood from the toothpicks gives the screw threads brand new mass to bite into, which instantly tightens the hinge right back up against the frame. But hey, what if your front door is incredibly heavy and toothpicks just aren't quite enough to hold all that weight? In that case, you need to memorize this magic number right here, 2.5. That represents 2.5 inches. The crucial point to understand is that the original screws installed by your home builder are often laughably short. They generally only bite into the thin decorative door jamb, and they completely miss the actual structural framing of your house. So by removing those original short, useless screws on the hinge closest to the wall and driving in a brand new 2 to 2.5 inch general purpose screw, you actually reach the sturdy 2x4 wall stud hidden behind the jamb. This creates a powerful anchor that pulls the entire sagging door frame right back into perfect alignment. It's a total game changer. Okay, let's step it up. Section 3, Pro Secret, Bending Hinges. If the screws are tight but the door still stubbornly refuses to close smoothly, it is time to tweak the hinge itself. This takes 3 really easy steps. Step 1, wedge shims under the door. Step 2, pop the hinge pins. And step 3, bend the knuckles with a wrench. Now, you always want to start by wedging wooden shims or sliding an air pump shim right underneath the bottom edge of the door. You do this to lift the door until you achieve a nice, consistent, perfectly even gap all the way across the bottom. That way, the door's weight is properly supported before you start messing with the hardware. Once the door's weight is fully supported by those shims, you need to pop the pin out of that problematic top hinge. Honestly, it always helps to spray a little WD-40 on it first just to loosen things up. Then, carefully take a hammer and a small tool. This could be an Allen wrench, a metal punch, or a pair of diagonal cutters cupped right underneath the pin head, and gently tap the pin straight up and out. Just be patient here, okay? You want to get the pin out without marking up the door's nice paint job or denting the surrounding wall. With the pin completely removed, take a close look at the metal loops on the hinge. Those loops are called the knuckles. Take your crescent wrench, slip it snugly over the knuckles that are physically attached to the swinging door itself, and firmly, but gently, bend them toward the face of the door by just a 1/16 of an inch. Barely anything at all, but that tiny, almost microscopic adjustment is usually all it takes to realign a sprung hinge and pull the door safely away from the sticking frame. All right, once you've made that little tweak, it's time to put it all back together. Using those exact same shims, or even just a few plywood scraps on the floor, lift the door back up so it's perfectly aligned and the hinge knuckles slide into each other like interlocking fingers. Then, just slide your pin back in, give it a few confident taps with your hammer to seat it fully, pull your shims out from underneath, and swing the door. Honestly, you will be amazed at that satisfying, buttery smoothness as it finally swings completely free. Finally, we reach section 4. Last resort door fixes. Now, a fair warning here. If you've tried absolutely everything else and the door still manages to stick, the contractor's absolute last resort is usually chiseling the wooden jamb to physically lower the hinges or forcefully grinding away the wood with a heavy-duty belt sander. Let me tell you, this is a remarkably dirty, messy, and loud last resort that completely ruins your paint job. It is exactly the kind of massive, headache-inducing project you can hopefully avoid entirely by just using the clever, non-destructive tricks we've just covered. So, knowing what you know now about how simple the core issues usually are, I really have to ask you, are you ready to grab your tools and fix that sticking door yourself? You now possess the exact insider playbook the professionals use. From simply sliding a strike plate over, to packing a stripped hole with toothpicks, to gently bending a metal hinge, you have the power to conquer this home repair today. I mean, why on earth would you pay a contractor hundreds of dollars when the perfect solution is literally sitting in your toolbox right now? Get out there, fix that door, and save your money. Really, it kind of makes you wonder, what other quote-unquote expensive home repairs are actually just a loose screw and a toothpick away from being fixed?